he's into it, Shastra for Krida. And so it all originated from Brahman. And who created what we call Panchaved. Bhakti Shastra is called Panchaved. Why not such self? The difference from the four Ved and Natyaved is that Natyaved is what the first chapter says is Sarv Sadharan and Sarv Varnik. Ved should be such. Ved is on some kind of knowledge repository. That Shastra of Krida should be such that it should be ordinary. Ordinary in the sense, Sarv Sadharan. We go into this conception of Sadharanikaran. Natya Shastra has a very important concept of Sadharanikaran. And that anybody could do it. Anybody. As long as a human could do, it should be as normal and ordinary as it is. And it should be Sarvarnika means all, it should be sensitive to the stratifications in society. Any Varna, anybody, some said classically that Ved, etc. are for Trivak. And not of that kind, it should be Sarvarnik. Vard is a term for colors. People of all colors, it should not make a distinction between them. It should be true for all. So the Shastra of Krida, which is Natya Shastra, has a condition that it should be Sarv Sadharan and it should be Sarv Varnik. Anybody could do it. Anybody could benefit by it. For the entire activity. And then Bharat says that the Shastra which is done by inspiration of Brahman, not only that it's Sarvarnik and Sarvsadhara, it is also Drashya Shravya, as well as heard. It can be seen as well as heard. Shravya. So it should be visual as well as sonic. It turned out to be visual and sonic. There is a reason for it. Like the 5 sense organs we have. 3 organs are such that the objects contact. Yeah, that's right. And whereas in vision and in sonic, you don't need contact with the object. You can have a removed far away object, visual object can be far away, sonic object which is creating a sound can be far away. But for rest of 3 you need proximities. So to visualize, to mull over objects which are sonic and visual, to get a feel of visual field and sonic field, you need not have an object present. Those fields can be freely handled. Whereas for touch, you need a proximate object. You can't imagine touch without simulating an object. You have to simulate an object to imagine a touch. But you can visualize an object without simulating that object. Or you can visualize some arbitrary object or imaginary object. And you don't need object for the sensation of that. So whereas touch, smell and flavor or taste, you need object has to be devolved, has to be kept to feel that sensation. One can simulate them, these objects, and these objects need not be once you simulate the object, you can feel the object, but object will not be part of the imagination. Whereas in visual and sonic, objects can be part of the imagination. You can, when you have internal talk going, you can have a person talking to you. This person will not be a real person, this can be just an imaginary person. What you imagine about that bad character, that person is talking to you. And in touch, you may have a tactile sensation without that person. But it's purely, I mean, the person attributes of the persons, apart from tactile attribute, are not present in your imagination. Whereas in visual and sonic, attribute of those objects are present as part of the cognition, part of imagination. In the other three, like Pavlovian salivation, like dog has, or showing a food, begin salivating. That object, saliva, may not be part of the imagination. Imagination, it's silently there, the object is silently there. And the feel is of texture, feel is of flavor, etc. Whereas in vision and sound are the two sensations, whose objects are necessary for them to occur, but they need not be part of the imagination, those objects. It can be, the other features of those objects may not be there. Whereas when you are, for instance, internal talk, you can imagine even frothing of a person. If anger is there, you can imagine something more visual about that person. The features of the person. A feature of objects can be part of imagination. Whereas here, the features of objects are not part of imagination. But having an object is necessary condition. That object is simulated. So it will be the shocker. And then there are other distinctions made in the story.
I probably missed out something. I'm not able to understand the whole thing that you were talking about now.
Okay.
About visual and what is necessary and not necessary.
We're talking about what could be the Shastra of Krida, which will bring some order into next year. The principle of next year will be brought forth by that. Because it will take away people from craving for sukh and
shunning.
Yeah, and dukh. It will take away people from those infraternities and make them dharma be back. So that means this playfulness has to be reined in, or has to be sort of understood to create the new dharma. And there are certain conditions for this playfulness. Number one, that no being should be kept away from it. Every being should be able to participate in it. And if there is such a thing, then it so happens it limits itself to visual and sonic content. Such a Shastra would deal with the visual content in the sonic content. The reason for that is you need to have imaginary objects and their features into it. The objects of sound and objects of vision are the imaginary objects. Whereas objects of touch are not imaginary objects. Objects of touch are actual objects. So you can visualize touch by simulating an object on your finger. Like when I touch, I get texture of this wood, this texture is my sense object. But for it to occur, it required this wood object. Because if there is no wood object, if I remove it, there is no texture, sense of texture. Only when this object is there, I get this sensation. So one has to visualize, I have to imagine. How do I imagine touch? We do imagine touch. We do get a sense of touch. But what we do is we simulate artificially the object which we are touching. For
Kind of
instance,
hallucination.
in imagination. We may touch a skin in imagination, but we have to simulate skin. Like in the Pavlovian experiment dog, you show this thing, it salivates. This salivation is required to sustain that sensation. So we can simulate that. We do that in imagination, we simulate
Consciously.
it
Yeah.
consciously, and then we can experience touch. But for vision and sound, we can even imagine an object. We can all
Sir, can we say that Krida takes away people from reality?
yes. So what do we do? This taking of reality that there is, it brings in a new order. New order in the world. I mean, something failure of Satyug. Satyug is headed. It's a very tall asking. What do we do? This bubble of Krida we bring in to the world. It will create sort of chaos. But we want it to be sort of bringing in order. Art is all about that. This Natshas is all about that. How to bring in order in spite of imagination. Even with this bubble of imagination, of playfulness with the world, which we have in imagination. How do we do that? So for that, there is there are two kinds of imaginations. Again, from different viewpoint. One is one with well-known objects, and another with even new kind of objects, artificial objects. So well-known objects are like, you can have Ram, Sita, Jayachandran, etc. Such objects are there. And they are well known. And not well known are like Spider-Man. Things like that, some artificial objects. New objects you can make. There are many new characters which are there. Now displayed. They are artificial objects. So anyway, important thing is once Brahma did this, Brahma went to God and said that you do it now, you practice it. So Indra, etc., they tried doing it, but they failed. The gods went back to Brahma, said that we tried sort of, as you gave this Shastra, we tried letting it out and doing things, not tried to do, but we failed. Why did they fail? It's because they didn't have bodies. They tried all kind of things. In Devlo, they didn't have bodies. So you need bodies. So how do you get these bodies? I mean, people, embodied people, are already, their dharmas are settled. So somebody is doing this, doing that. Everybody knows what to do from morning to evening. They have the dharmas already. How do you get somebody which says that, okay, I am not myself, I am a king or I am a beggar? Where are the bodies which can do this kind of things? Which can adopt some other characters? So Brahma gave 100 sons to nut is born, that they have bodies which can sort of enclose even Raja or Ram or anybody. They can let out that. So it's the humans only who could do that. And his 100 sons of Bharat were given for that purpose. And but then sort of they learned there are many vrittis which are taught in Shastra, enactment kind of thing, Sattvic, this, that. So they learned all that. But there was this Kaishiki vritti.
Grace.
No, the combing of hair.
Oh, is it?
Just combing. That men could not do. Whatever, I mean, there is something involved in combing hair, which was missing in those three vrittis.
Did they have hair for such a long time?
Yeah, they could grow, no? Hair.
No, like nowadays the
Combing
men
is-
have little hair and the men have long hair. That time, how was it, I'm asking?
Long hair.
Nothing to do with that.
They could grow, no?
Nothing to do with that.
No. See,
No, even if they're bald, they can comb their
Got it.
So lucky at that.
I got it.
Yeah.
Yes. So, for that, that was Srishti of Garenka, Apsaras, etc.
124.
Huh?
The Apsaras were 24.
24.
524.
That's it. So, and also not just Apsaras, Gandharvas. Many others, there's 5, 6 things of one. For because there were other minor things. These handed nuts couldn't also sing properly. For Kapu or something, that the Gandharvas had to be born. So they filled up. Then the entire populace came through. Then Natya could be formed. And the first Natak was Sunil.
So the numbers 124 having a significance.
I don't know about that. Yeah, so whatever. The numbers are negotiable.
That's fine.
So actually, as you rightly said, women, when depicted, in one of the older hastas to show a woman, it is the hair. This is called women. This is the first hasta Prof.
Have we come up with this?
That's the second for to hold the bosom, holding the bosom. This is woman. So that's where exactly the point comes. It is not about hair, it's about something to do with that. This also.
So by women you are meaning the feminine aspect.
That's a bigger. The point is exactly that is one can handle because women of, if you say the Apsara's name there also, it means Panchajota. One of the names is Panch, who has 5 conjugal or 5 days. One who has Ekajota, Jota. Many names there. It revolves around
The hair.
hair. There are 5 kinds of hair decoration. Everything has a name. Apsara's names revolve around hair. And hairdo of Apsara is different when you do a costume for it. It's very 5 circles they do for Apsaras. 5 different. So it's exactly the point is that hair combing. Something very.
So, like 7 notes in knee, we have Kaisiki Vishalamikara. So, what is that Kaisiki there? Like, just curious.
Knee, huh? What is, why is knees feminine?
Anything related to
Vishal is
this?
feminine.
I don't know.
It's Kaishiki. Vritti of Kaishiki is. See, we are not very clear what Nishada is all about. In one way, look at it. Is Nishada motive? Is another. things, the nomenclature been assigned to it, we are not very clear. And there's divisions and what within them. What is Reed, Rishabha with 3, what is Pancham and Shadja with 1. We are not very clear how they derive one, but what Kaisik to do with this is.
Yes, so it's a grand question. But there is, you take it seriously.
Yeah.
There is something,
Sure.
yes, we need to explore that. And it's possible that Nishad has something. So, with Ragni structures, one should be able to see that. Because they all come out of Ragyan. So, there are notices which are relevant. So we'll keep in mind. See what Nishad.
But this is also called as Komal, so how specific it is?
Nishad.
This guy is
All Komals are
Komal and Nishad.
Yes.
It's different.
But feminine is not Komal, they are ferocious. This is not crazy.
So what is the exact
So not
meaning of
that's what reserve was Komal thing.
What is the exact meaning? But I saw in Sanskrit dictionary it said grace.
No. Grace is English.
Kaishiki is an adjective of Kesha.
Okay, Kesha.
Not Kesha.
Kesha is again the different thing. Okay.
So, okay, then the first natak was done. So all the gods came through, humans are doing it.
So you mentioned Apsaras and Gandharvas. So did you say that they were the ones who did the Natakam?
Yes.
But they're not humans.
They are those humans who have bodies. They are those gods.
Have bodies.
They're known for their bodies.
Yeah.
Gandharvas are known for singing.
Yes. Apsaras were the bodies.
More bodily formations. But they are devas.
Actually, Gandharvas and Apsaras, the transit comes when Lasya was taught. It was through Apsaras was transferred. They were they were part of the play. The original play was done by the Bharatas, the sons. But they were embodied beings of the Lasya. It was taught to them through another stream. Parvati taught it. It is mentioned.
So Bharata came up with this and Brahma came up with this and asked the gods to do, but gods had no bodies.
Henceforth, demigods or the semi-gods.
And who were Brahma's 100 sons?
Bharatas.
But one of the
100 sons and 124 daughters.
So one of the texts that I read, Nati Shastra, they said like the gods were not self-controlled, so they couldn't do this job.
They say these kind of things. These are commentaries. But if you read the original, you interpret it according to whichever makes the best sense. Usually they say the gods are like, they begin coughing and so electing. They say some. Vignas are there. So just coming to that. When the first play was being done, there were gods, the Danavs, everybody was there watching. Then Danavs became furious because there was an obvious bias in Sumani Manthan towards God. They became very furious. Brahma has created not only gods, they also created them. They had an equal access to Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, as gods have. They are equal, they are not like small people. But this play was going towards revering gods. So they became very furious. And so what they did, they put in all kind of vignas, obstacles. For instance, actor will come, when you are speaking, suddenly memory will fail. You will forget something, what to say. Or something else will happen. Somebody is walking, suddenly fall down. And so all kind of vignas were there. And the play won't go through. So the gods were sort of their joy was destroyed. They were winning. And Danavas made their point. So the gods rushed again to Brahma. He didn't do anything for his Vignas. It was at that time also a flag ceremony of and so that pole, his thumb, is in the which is put now when you do natak, etc. Put that. It creates vigna-free atmosphere. But and all kind of other. Somebody was vignas which are there on the stage. Suddenly there is a hole in the stage. Somebody falls, or it falls down. Vignas of lighting, vignas of all kind. There are hundreds of vignas. Vigna schedules is there. So for that, you can't do natak without practice. You need to do a lot of practice so that vigna go off. Dancing requires some practice. So vignas go off. So that is the major thing these kids of Bharat had to understand. So Gandharvas are giving this tan, suddenly sort of goes course or something somewhere. So such kind of things are happening. But nonetheless, Danavas made a complaint, very serious complaint. Why is it that, okay, we are all equal, but then why is it that Danavas are shown in bad light? Why did you create something like Kriya Shastra, in which good is favored and bad is left to men for itself? This is too much of a bias. And we are as if Danavas are all bad and Devtas are all right. I mean, what kind of black and white is this? We do great things, they may also do great things, we talk about their great things and our great things, our bad things, and their bad things also. This is God is do bad things. And talk about that also. So why should there be a bias in the Shastra towards good? That's why all these films of Hollywood, Bollywood, they are good ending. Films. Why is this bias? Very serious question. So Brahma's answer is very difficult. And many of the commentaries don't tell properly what the answer is to this question. Actually, all that fiction of gods, they couldn't do things and all is small. Actual question is this: why should Natya be biased towards good instead of being neutral? Brahma said, no, it is not biased towards good. It is presenting to audience whatever is. And it's for the audience to decide what is good and bad, not for the so one who is performing Natya, that person will decide. One who is designing Manthan, etc., that person is not revealed. But what the audience wants, Samajik wants, the question of good and bad, right and wrong, is left to Samajik. Samajik is a term first time used in Natya Shastra. Samaj. Samaj means
Audience?
Society.
Society.
Yeah, society, etc. But Samaj in Sanskrit means Dhatu, rising and falling together. The people who rise and fall together, no? They are called Samaj. Some Dhatu. And this for the first time, Samaj is used in Natya Shastra, is also used in Jyotish. When all the planets come together in one line of sight, it's called Samaj. Coming together. So, So housing society or societies which are there, they are also rising and falling together. And they have the same problem with water and electricity. They have similar problems, security problems. So, it's a very important idea of the neutrality of moral neutrality of recreation for forms of art. And that judgment is left to audience. What is audience to do with judgment? We'll make a lot of this. Art has to do with judgment. Because for perceptions, the truth of perception, as I said, is decided by the objects you perceive. Objects, so they're there now. So whether it's a rope or snake, you go and find out visually. Whether it's a rope or snake. It decides the truth. But imagination, what decides the truth? Who is the controller? And who decides a good imagination, bad imagination?
But when the artist himself or herself is, representing one character on stage, what should the artist be feeling regarding that particular character? Is it good or bad? Do they have a judgment on that?
If the character is bad, artist has to be terribly bad to the core.
But then we are projecting our opinion of that character on viewer.
One condition for Sadharanikaran is that when we lend our body, a good actor is that whose psychology, ego is totally invisible. It's not like Shah Rukh Khan who is saying things.
Every time he is
the similar
his
thing
own
comes.
personality.
A good actor is that who hides also the personality completely. It's to let the other personality take over.
But see, when we show like Devas, we always have the heroic stance, and then we show the Asuras, we always try and look a little
valorous.
Yeah, but a little unpleasing probably. So how is that?
Very bad.
Yeah, and I've been hearing a lot of this nowadays that there's this whole bias that the Aryans had for the darker skinned people in the country, and then they were treated as asuras, the demons, the bad guys. So what is that angle?
These are bad things. That's what Brahma is saying. That at least I didn't expect that Danavs would have similar images of, that Danavs are dark skinned, black, and bad people, etc. They should have a glorious image, no? They do the best things. These gods are sort of lethargic, good for nothing people. They just keep it, they don't even have good language.
And they're always up to some mischief and doing something. But then they always show that
but mischiefs are all done by their default. We just keep sitting somewhere. By default, mischiefs happen. I mean, it's Danavs who find the way out of all those mischiefs and create proper narrative. Danavs gave Vyakaran, Danavs gave all proper things to the They are the pursuits of knowledge Danavs did. Danavs did everything, and these guys still say dark skin and whatnot.
Yeah. Then I'm feeling bad because I'm a dancer and I represent a demon in this way, or I don't know.
No, you have to glorify. I mean, forget about yourself. If you are representing demon, you be demon. I mean, show demon in the best possible light. The most truthful way of showing demon. Yes, so don't get taken up by various tendencies, habits, popular opinion, things like that.
The reason why this recreation is done is because people were leaving Dukh and only going for Sukh.
Yes.
So how do we connect that to what is the theme?
Just about to come. We are bringing in this thing called audience. What is the audience? You require audience to do. What is this audience? What are the audience doing? When I ask a question, where is the truth of what you imagine? What is right, what is wrong?
In terms of Sukh and Dukh,
Yes.
and good and bad,
Yes.
are we relating that here?
Yeah, we have to relate that way, because that is the main thing. And but this question is very important. Danav said that why are you favoring gods? He said, I am not favoring gods. And it's left to audience. What is the audience?
Judge.
Huh?
Judge.
Yes. What are the judge? Audience is a person who has completely, to be audience, one has to completely forget one's psychology, ego, whatever. That is this process called sadharnika. So if you're watching a movie, whether you are a billionaire or you are sort of nothing, it's the same. Whether you're BJP or Congress, you're same. No stratification, nothing. All audience is.
Can we use the equivalent term in English, standardized?
Standardized or bare, you're simple audience. I mean,
Unbiased.
unbiased, you are totally sort of given up on all responsibilities,
Immersed.
completely immersed.
We don't stand and judge. We just have to represent.
So how to get the audience coming from various facets in life to get present to them, be there?
Yeah, so they will be there because there is something called recreation happening, entertainment is there, they'll be there. Once there, they will lose themselves and they will occupy a seat of impartiality. Whatever happens there, they are most receptive. They sort of, their tendencies, their predispositions, they just keep aside. Till the immersion breaks, they are completely receptive to you. This kind of immersion you get in art. You never get in education, in Krida, in sports. You get this immersion. Completely people forget themselves.
The same play.
Same play. This is called sadharnika. Ordinary, making people ordinary.
Too much. They use the term of suspension of disbelief.
Yes. Yes.